Welcome to this lecture. Let's learn about some basics of networking in this lecture. So first of all, you can see we have these four modules that is available in this network, and basically we have this client and server, so they communicate with each other so that we get the services like email and a web page. So there is this browser, which is the client. It make requests to the server, which is connected to the network, and it will just get the response as a page to the client web addresses, or basically to the client web browser. So this is the first module, and the next one is very important, and it is IP addresses and the MAC addresses. It is how the device on the network can be found. So if you want to send any information, it is done with these two modules, and it is IP addresses and MAC addresses. And particularly MAC address is the logical address in which the device can be found on the network. So based on these MAC addresses, we'll just find the particular machine. So what we can see is the MAC addresses is only the particle, or basically it is only the way so that anyone who is doing illegal work can be traced out. So if you want the anonymity, you have to try hard not to just get a leak of these MAC addresses and even the IP addresses. We'll see that in the lecture where we'll cover how to remain the anonymous in Kali Linux. And you can see the third building block, and it is about the network hubs, switches and the cable. And you know that is we have these connections in order to support the networking, and it is a hardware building block of any network. And the next one is a router and a firewall, and it is about to organize and control the flow of a traffic on the network. So this router will just get the information, and based on that information it will just control the flow of a traffic on the network. So now let's see how we can get the IP addresses and MAC addresses with the Windows. So first of all, let me open this command prompt, and if I just type ipconfig and if I hit enter, you are getting these connections of Wi-Fi, and it is with the LAN adapter. And you can see the two addresses over here. One is IP addresses, which is the IP addresses of this machine, and the next one is your MAC address. So this MAC address is different on different computer, so you will have different MAC addresses and IP addresses, and based on these MAC addresses the information will be given to the particular computer correctly. And you can see the gateway right here. So the first subnet of any IP addresses will be the gateway. So you can see that we have the same network, and the first subnet is your gateway, which is default gateway. So you can get this information with the help of ipconfig in the window. Let's see on the Linux. So I have here the Kali Linux, and I'll just say ifconfig, and if I hit enter, then you could see right here we have the ether as in MAC addresses, and the IP addresses is not here because we have not activated any device over here. So we'll see that in the upcoming lecture, but it is the way to see the IP addresses and the MAC addresses in the Linux machine. So back to here, so you can see that we have this data frame containing the header and the data. So data is basically the actual information in the bits, and header is what we contain of these MAC addresses. So we can clearly see that this header is composed of these MAC addresses, which means it has source MAC address and destination MAC address. That means with the header information you will deliver the information correctly to the particular machine. That means this MAC addresses is a logical addresses which determines where this data should be sent. So you could see that we have this simplified ether data frame. So data frame is composition of the header which contains of this MAC addresses and other information with this data that need to be sent. So you can see our modules are made up of these four informations, and that is client and server, which are the two physical machine that are going to do the connection or the communication, and one will just do the request, another will just give the response. The next one is the IP addresses and MAC addresses. This will determine where the data or information should be sent within the network, and you can see the switch and cables, which is going to build us a network. And next one is a router and firewall. They will organize and control the flow of traffic within the network. So let's go down and let's see this page over here which shows this diagram, and this diagram is very important diagram. So let's assume that we have this public network and the private network. So in the private network, the first gateway will be your gateway, default gateway, or first subnet of your network will be the default gateway. So over here we have this machine that is connected to Wi-Fi network, and each of these have these IP addresses. So this .1 refers to these IP addresses and last subnet over here, and you could see that this is going to deliver the information to the computer. So to send an IP packet to the network device, the sender or this router needs to know the IP address of the destination device. So if they don't know the destination device IP address, it is not going to send any information. So the IP address will be used to get the data packet to the final network segment. So in order to deliver the packet to the final destination, the MAC addresses of a destination computer must be also known. So the protocol should be used, and that protocol is ARP protocol, which stands for Address Resolution Protocol. So it is used as an Ethernet broadcast to query the nodes on the network. So query will be something like which node or which of these devices has the IP addresses or a destination IP addresses, and they will say send me that MAC addresses. So that will be the information that is done with the ARP request. So ARP request is done so as to get the MAC addresses, so that information will be sent correctly to that machine. So in order to see that all the node will see that query, that is the query that is done with the ARP request, but only the node or only the computer with that destination IP addresses replies. Other all will ignore that message, and only the machine that has the particular MAC addresses will reply, and in that way there will be the communication. One will send that ARP response, and there will be complete communication with this ARP protocol.